The importance and value of the metal phase of the five elements. That is going to be the topic of this episode of Chi Life. So it's been interesting to me over the last little while as I've been doing more teaching about the five elements and of course specifically Qigong practices that work with the five elements. That it's kind of stood out to me that it seems like of all those five elements, people seem to have a little bit of a lack of appreciation of the importance and the role and the value of the metal element, the metal phase. So if you're not familiar with the five elements, very briefly, they flow in a sequence from one to the next to the next. There's a bit more to it than that. There's an intricate relationships between each of the five elements, but most of the time the way we work with them, there's a flow from one to the next to the next. And so there's the water element, which has its own qualities. Some of those fundamental qualities are that water is the element of creativity, where things come from, where things are initiated, the idea that starts something off. You then have the wood element, which gets things in motion, it gets them going, it gets them growing, moving upwards, rising, putting things into action. You then have the fire element, which is expansive, expressive. It tells the story, it shares things, it spreads them. You then have the earth element, which is stable, it consolidates, it balances, it stores, it nurtures. And then you have the metal element. And the metal element is the descending element. So they've got different qualities, different movements as well. So water flows, initiates, wood rises, fire expands, earth consolidates, metal descends. And in many ways, some people look at this in different ways, but in many ways we can think of the water element as starting a cycle, that the idea, the conception, the very beginning. We go through these different phases, and then the metal element, as the energy now descends, ends a cycle. And depending on the type of cycle that we're talking about, some cycles just go around and you go another cycle, another cycle, another cycle. They're recurring cycles or continuous ongoing cycles. Other cycles might be a single cycle. You go through a single cycle and then you come to the end and transition into something new. And that is really one of the key roles of the metal element. So the metal element refines, the metal element purifies. Part of that refining, that purification, is the metal element is responsible for deciding what to keep, what's important, what's essential, what's valuable, and then what not to keep, what to get rid of, what to exclude, what's not necessary or useful anymore. And that's a really, really important role. If we think about it in terms of just some regular everyday cycles that we might be part of, because these cycles go through every part of our life. They're in nature all around us. So a classic, like quite big scale cycle of this is the seasons. So winter is water. And then we have the growth of spring, wood. Then we have fire, which is expansive. The heat of summer, fire, expansiveness. Then we have earth. So earth's an interesting one, often relates to late summer where there's a period of stability. But also in a sense, earth stabilizes all of the elements. We can think of it as like actually each of the seasons having some earth within it where it creates stability. But then we have autumn, which is the metal, the descending, the choosing what's important and storing it away or not, getting rid of what we don't need. So classic examples of this, in autumn, animals around us store food for the winter. They decide what they're going to keep, right? And humans back in the old days, we used to put more attention on this now. Now, most of the time, all of that's done on an industrial scale for us, and we can buy food whenever we like, right through all of the seasons. But that used to be a big thing when we were living more in harmony with the seasons and taking care of our own food production. Towards the end of summer, heading into autumn, you were making sure you had everything stored away for winter. If we look at trees around us, again, depends on the climate. Some trees where the weather is temperate, they just have leaves and everything all year round. But where the weather gets colder, and particular types of trees, they decide, do we really need these leaves right now? Right? Or do we actually need to take our energy and put it inside and keep it inside for the winter? And so we go, oh, don't need the leaves right now. Get rid of those, right? It's this process of refining, keeping what's most important so that you can then enter a new cycle with what you need, with the things that are most valuable. So that's in nature around us. I'll talk about a couple of more lifestyle sort of cycles that we go through as well. Because again, this applies to everything in life. We're always going through cycles. So something that has a very simple cycle within it could be an activity, a simple activity like maybe an exercise routine, where we go through all of those phases. I won't go into too much detail about them because I want to focus on the metal element. But we always start with an idea, that's water. We always then need to put it into action, that's wood. We then need to actually fully express whatever it is, fire, and take care of all of the practical elements, that's earth. And then metal. Metal is where we analyze what it is that we did, what went well, what didn't go well, and what we want to keep into a new cycle, and what we maybe want to get rid of. Now, sometimes we do this very consciously. We might sit down with a piece of paper and a pen and write out what was good and what wasn't, and make a list of pros and cons and all of this sort of thing. It's a very specific, clear metal element phase. Other times we still do it, whether we're conscious of it or not, but there's this little evaluation, like, was that good? Was that not good? If we think about this example of an exercise session, you do an exercise session and you have an idea, you put it into action, you have, what it is you want to do in this exercise session, a series of exercises, a certain amount, maybe whatever it is. You go, you do the exercise session. When you finish, again, sometimes you might evaluate it formally, but often unconsciously, you evaluate, was that good? What worked well? What didn't go well? And if some things didn't go so well, you might go, oh, well, maybe I'll focus more on that, or maybe I'll change something about that exercise and choose a different one, or do a lighter weight or a heavier weight, or whatever it might be. And so the metal element is refining what we do moving into the next cycle. So we then choose, what do we keep? What do we let go of? And sometimes you might go do that exercise session and, oh, it was all good, exactly the same next time. Oh, it was all good, exactly the same next time. Oh, it was all good, exactly the same next time. Oh, actually, I'm getting stronger now or fitter now. This is part of the analysis as well. I'm going to change that cycle next time. I'm going to do a more challenging exercise or do something for longer or whatever it is. We're now refining, fine-tuning this cycle we're going through. So those future cycles change as we go through it. Equally, you might have a different kind of change. You might have a change where you're like, oh, your schedule is changing and now you don't have quite as much time to fit in this exercise session. So you go, oh, I realize this, I need to evaluate what I'm doing, and maybe you do less of some exercises, or you put it together in a different way. So we're fine-tuning. The metal element is doing this. Very, very important for making things go smoothly in our life. And then at some point we reach the end of one of these cycles and our metal element is, we're going through our metal element phase, and we realize, hey, it's actually time to do something completely different. And rather than just fine-tuning the cycle, we actually go, ooh, we change direction, we go and do something else. Yeah, metal element's important for that. We can also look at this on a big scale through our life, at any scale really. But if you look at it on the biggest scale in an individual life, you can think of different phases of our life as relating to the different elements. Starting off with conception as water, and then the early stages of growth of youth as wood, getting into adulthood, fire, starting to express ourselves, a good long period of stability with earth where we're taking care of lots of practical things. Then as we head into the end stages of our life, metal again, as we start to look back at everything and refine, find what's most precious within our lives, what's most important. That phase of life can be a beautiful phase of life. I think part of why maybe the metal element isn't often appreciated or understood as well as some of the others is because it is associated, well, it depends how we think of this, whether we think of it as a process of refining or if we think of it as a process of loss. because this is part of what happens. We refine, we keep what's important, but we also let go of what's no longer important, or maybe what's no longer available. And we let go of that and to move on to what is available. And so the emotion related to the metal element is often referred to as grief. Again, there's different parts of that. We can think of it as a process of refining, right? Certainly a process of letting go of what's necessary and keeping what's valuable. And grief is healthy. It's healthy to grieve. But I think when we don't understand the nature of the metal element, and the importance of it, we don't appreciate the importance of this refining process and how it has a role in every aspect of our life. No surprise, often people struggle with that process of grieving. But I think if we do appreciate the metal element better, we recognize this is happening all the time, and we really appreciate this process of refinement, we're likely to, well, refine ourselves, refine our lives in a much more effective way, both on a small scale and on the larger scale, both day to day as we could do different activities, as we engage in different projects and so on, and also in the grand scheme of the flow of our whole life as well. We're more likely to go through that and really find what's valuable, not hold on to things that aren't valuable for us anymore. Anyway, that's my little vlog today, little chat about the metal element. Hopefully it's given you a bit more of an appreciation about it. If you've liked the vlog, please like, comment, subscribe, share, all those good things, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.